know anything about that. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I'll do that. You do it.
Everyone, we're going to wait a few minutes for people to come in from the break, and we'll be starting very soon. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, good afternoon. We'll make a start. We only have 1 hour for this session. Um, and instead of waiting any further, knowing that we'll get into very intense discussions soon, I hope, um, we'll make a start. Thank you for coming to the session. Much appreciated. Last year we did a similar session as a test case. That worked really well. So we thought we'd try and mainstream it to see if you like. Hello? 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 So this year again we've put this on the agenda, and we hope that this year we can focus a bit more on what the national IGFs are doing out there in the community instead of us just talking about it. So today on the panel, if I start from my left, we have Kun Wanawit. Of course, everyone I think just about knows Kun Wanawit. He's been on the MAG, of course, and he's currently an advisor to the Thai Digital Economy Ministry. We have Shita, who used to be with Hivos, but now she's with Diplo, based out of Indonesia. We have, of course, the man himself, Changatai. Everyone knows him. You can't miss him in a room because he's so tall. There's Chet to my right, of course, the executive director of APC, and Jennifer, of course, who helped put all this together, and myself. I'm here for comic relief, largely. I'm Raj, for those who don't know me. I work for ISOC. So let's begin with, I think, Changatai. Do you want to do this? Yeah. Changatai, if you could perhaps start with some updates from the IGF.
Testing. Oh, right, great. Right, thank you very much. Let me just give a very quick update on what has been happening concerning the NRIs with the IGF Secretariat and also with the MAG. The other panel members may expand on a couple of other things. But as you know, in the MAG, we had a meeting on the 5th of July. We had a virtual meeting to discuss the NRI session, because part of the plan this year was to better integrate the national and regional initiatives into the annual meeting of the global IGF. And part of this plan was, of course, as of last year, give the NRIs a main session, which was given. And this year's topic was is rights in the digital and online world. The deadline to hand in the agenda to the IGF Secretariat is the 15th of August, and Anya from the Secretariat, who is the National and Regional Initiatives focal point, whom you all know, I think, better than I, is coordinating that. Also this year, for the first time, the NRIs were given between 6 to 9 slots to organize joint collaborative sessions. And these should follow the basic principles of the IGF. So 3 NRIs will partner on a topic, and so it has to be multi-stakeholder. It also has to be across regions, and it has to respect regional balance. So the work for this is ongoing, and also the deadline is 15th of August to hand in some proposals, and the IGF Secretariat will then again look at them and then award between the 6 to 9 slots. This was the deal that was reached with the MAG, the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. And this is just, the MAG says that we're going to try this for this year only, and then we're going to look at it again and see whether or not we can continue for next year. I have all the confidence that these sessions are going to be great, and the MAG is going to approve them for the coming years as well, because I mean the NRIs always do great work. For this year, we're going to have, as last year, we're going to have a joint booth for the annual meeting, and where we have people from the NRIs who want to advertise their work to the participants of the annual meeting, which is in December, as you all know. Can contact Anya as well, and she's organizing the booth for the NRIs. And there's going to be a schedule for the booth captains, and also what materials, if you have videos you want to show on the booth as well. These videos can be shown on the booth. That's the IGF Village booth. There is also a youth IGF initiatives track, and we're going to look at their work and better integrate them into the IGF work and the intersessional work as well. And again, Anya is coordinating that. The toolkit has been translated into all 6 languages by the NRIs, and I think that is really great work. The last language we're going to be receiving is the French language, which will be in next week. As usual in the NRIs, we also have these remote hubs. So this is for people who cannot attend the annual meeting. We encourage them to form up remote hubs, and these remote hubs can be a grouping of people who come together either at the university or through ISOC chapters, and also I think ICANN also helps out. And this year, each of the main sessions, the best practice forums as well, are going to have questions. And if these remote hubs are established and you register them on the IGF website, we'll be sending you these questions once you select what kind of topics that you're interested in. And then we can talk with the session organizers to give you some space within those sessions to say your views and to contribute to the discussion that's going on. And I think this is also very important because most people cannot make it to Geneva, especially in December. So it's very important to get the most number of people involved in these discussions. I won't say much about the CNB phase 2, that is connecting the next billions, phase 3, because Shita and the others will say more about it, correct? Jennifer will say more about it. Okay, great. But the other best practice forums are gender and access, which I think is very important, and I do encourage you to go to the website and join the gender and access best practice forum. Also local content. I've heard there's been a lot of talk about encouraging local content here, and the last best practice forum that we're going to have is cybersecurity. So what we do with these best practice forums is that we have a discussion throughout the year. We call it intersessional work, and then at the end we formulate good practices into a document, and then we distribute these documents as widely as possible. We use the UN network, and we put it on the website, and we also encourage the NRIs and also other people to distribute these good practices that we have if people are interested in improving the gender balance and access, how to encourage the local content in countries, etc. Yes, I think that is all I have for the update. If anybody has any specific questions, I'm open to answer them. I don't know whether now or later at the end.
We'll do that later, just so get through the first bits first. So I think it's really good news to hear that the MAG has, of course, agreed to allow those sessions to be a part of the agenda. I think that's a really good step. I congratulate the MAG for taking that decision. As well, Changatai mentioned that not everyone can get to Geneva, and that's very true. Regional IGFs, global IGFs, it's not easy to get to those events. There's time, money, resources involved. So that's why I think the local or national IGFs really play a strong role, because what we need is more voices, more people to contribute, so that the learnings from that can be floated upstairs to regional and the global level. So I think this is a great initiative. With that, I'd like to invite Kun Wanawit to offer his comments.
Okay. From Thailand perspective on the national initiative, when we start off with 2015, so I think that is the last time we have the national initiative, national IGF. In fact, it's in the same university when we did, and 2016 and 17 we don't have. And I shared this during the first time I joined the MAG and discussed about the difficulty we have on two aspects. First is when we need to follow the process, call for inputs and making meeting reports, and the difficulties is the language issue, because most of the thing is handling by local volunteer students and young generation, and we try to assist them on coming up with the final report back to the IGF and to comply as a national initiative, and then we fail because it's difficult to find a volunteer to work in that area. And when we step in, the government tries to step in to assist, so then it's very difficult for them. They thought that we tried to dominate it, and we tried to recap this in 2018 for two reasons. One is that we sponsor the youth since the Macau, so we have some new generation kids in, and thanks to the regional initiative that we host this time, there's a significant number of students get in. So we try to rebuild the national initiative again. That are the first thing. But I also like to report that in 2015 we bring one of the topic call for input that relate to accessibility for the blind. So we sponsor and we manage to get into the global IGF in Guadalajara in Mexico. And then we get the installation works in Bhutan already. That's quite getting the real result of the work. So the commissioning of the system, coordination works between the people in Thailand that relate to this accessibility solution that run by the community now join with Bhutan, and it's done. Now the system is up and run. So at least for us, we're happy that we make things happen from the national initiative, go all the way to the IGF, and then we get the result. And then this round, we also find one more opportunity that I need to talk to the community, trying to find a budget to sponsor that.
Thank you, Kun Wanawit, for your comments. And of course, it's great to see when some collaboration come out of these national initiatives and goes out into the region. Sheila, could I ask you to offer your comments next?
Thank you. I would like to give a bit background of why the MAG is really supporting the NRIs. It's not only the MAG basically, but it's all the positive feedback that we received from 2016 IGF. That almost all the feedback that we received, there is no negative points on the main session of the NRI, because we think that it was the first time the NRIs got the main session and got the visibility of the NRIs. And we almost all of us agreed that the NRI is one of the most tangible outputs of the IGF itself. So that's why we agreed to have the main sessions and as well as the 6 to 9 slots of the program. And I would like to talk on behalf of Indonesia IGF. So we have this review process for our working mechanisms that we have received some feedback. So we are in the process of finalizing our working mechanism. It's almost more or less the same like what we have in IGF Global. And then after that, the MAC will decide, and then we'll put it on the websites on the IDIGF. We'll call it Indonesia IGF, IDIGF. We will have our national dialogue most probably in October. We are still deciding whether it's 23rd or 28th of October. And it is a multi-stakeholder processes because we have 5, so in the MAC, the current MAC of IDIGF, it's 5 person from each stakeholder, and we have 5 stakeholders, so we add academicians. So maybe not in UN state, but in Indonesia, we separated between civil society and academicians. Yeah, so that will be my update. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. So 2 examples of what's happened, or is happening in countries in the region. So we were just trying to see how we could manage the time. So we've got about 40-odd minutes left for this session. There's a couple of slides that Jennifer will run just on some further background on what's happening with connecting the next billion. And then we'll open it up to the floor so we can have an interactive discussion. So if you have questions for the panelists, or if you would like to offer your own experiences and suggestions, so we'll open that up and take it from there. Jennifer, thanks.
Thank you very much, Raj. My name is Jennifer Chung from the APrIGF Secretariat. In the interest of keeping the session as interactive as possible, so I'm going to run through the slides very quickly, just to see if we can kind of frame a little bit of how we want the input to come in. But of course, all questions, all comments, and all input, and even updates from your NRIs are very, very welcome and extremely encouraged here. So this is the policy options for connecting and enabling mixed billions, phase 3. As you all know, phase 1 and phase 2 happened the last 2 years, and APrIGF actually did send in the census document from Taipei and also from Macau towards these 2 phases. As we are in phase 3, the input period is actually, the deadline is the 31st of July, but I'm pretty sure it's a running deadline. We are able to put in our input as we receive it. For this one, the call for input is to focus on really the success stories and case studies and actual tangible happenings in your regional and your national IGFs. And it is really centered on these 3 SDGs, the 3 goals that you can see on this slide. Goal 4, which is ensure inclusive and quality education for all and promote lifelong learning. Goal 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And goal 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Sorry, I'm too short to actually see the slides there. So these are just some guiding goals for you to think about in your NRIs, the stories, the success stories, the challenges faced when trying to achieve these SDGs. So without further ado, I would like to pass back to our moderators so we can open up the floor.
So this is where I do what's called passing the buck, and my good friend Chet will now run the moderation session, I hope.
Okay. It's now your turn to hear from you. And I think, as Raj was saying, one, either updates, and also any questions that you might have of the panel. And I'm wondering also if there are suggestions around the applications for the 6 to 9 slot. If I understand correctly, that there could be proposals coming from the region as well for this session.
Yes, exactly. I think the process is underway at the moment, and Anya is coordinating, but I can answer any question that you may have.
So there you go. So we open the floor for you all. Yes, the mics are over there, but maybe take this. We'll take this.
Hi, good evening. I'm Barbara Morel. I'm representing Nepal IGF here. I'm Vice Chair of Multi-Stakeholder Steering Group of Nepal IGF and leading the program committee as well. So thank you very much for this good interaction. One question, just like Changatai said, IGF is giving space for NRIs with different sessions. Can we replicate that model in APrIGF as well in next round, having local national IGFs representation in workshops and like that, a different session and that kind of thing. And for updating Nepal IGF is happening for the first time in this August 18 and 19th. We'll try to make it live streaming as well, and then we'll circulate our information to APrIGF secretariat, and I hope they also can circulate among all the participants, and then that will be interesting.
Yeah, Raj, you want to answer that question about for next year?
So Chet is saying you're the chair. Actually, I'm not. I'm chair from tomorrow night, not right now for the MSG. But yeah, it's trivial, right? Look, I think that's a good suggestion. Obviously, I can't make the decision. The MSG can consider that. I do think there's a role for the national IGFs as well. So I think it will also depend a little bit on the national IGFs in the region themselves, trying to self-organize and seeing what they could come to the MSG with as a proposal. You know, whether it's reserved slots or is it something we do in day zero, I think there's a couple options we can look at. So what I would suggest to you is perhaps you could send that suggestion on to the MSG. The Secretariat can help you with the contact details. And then at a future meeting, we can consider that. And there's a few MSG members in the room as well. So, you know, we're hearing what you're saying. So let's see what we can do about it. So great suggestion. Thank you.
So any other questions for the panel, and also any updates on your own process nationally? Yes, there's one here, and I can't see the other hand. Yeah, there's a mic at the back. If you want to go at the back, yeah. And who?
Hello, I'm Mahitaladhibesra from Sri Lankan IGF. I believe that you can hear. Okay. We have conducted our local national IGF last May. So, as a national IGF coordinator, we have facing some problems. So these problems are common. Some are related to our country basis, and some are regional, and some are we can address as all of our NRIs. So we should have a mechanism or round table kind of thing in this kind of a forum to discuss our own matters within our initiatives. It's my idea.
Yeah, thank you. You can, if you want to share some of those, you know, briefly also, that might be useful for others as well if they want to respond to some of that. I'd invite you to, because this is sort of like the round table. Yeah.
So, one is a language issue, because as internationalization is needed, but even though in a local context, to get fruitful content into the discussion, the language is a matter. It's one point. And again, funding. I'm not elaborating each one, so I'll take little. And the public policy awareness of the IG stakeholders, within the stakeholders. So these are topics that I would like to get the idea of the other NRIs.
Okay, thank you. I'll call on Winston and Izumi, and then we'll have maybe responses also from the panel and co. Okay.
Okay, me now, is it? Okay. How many countries are not represented at this meeting? How many countries in the region? Have you made a count? There are quite a few. which are not represented. I just wondered if you know. No? Okay. Well, it's a big region and it stretches everywhere from, well, I hesitate to say, from Pakistan to Fiji, shall we say, or the Cook Islands. And it stretches everywhere from New Zealand up to somewhere near the equator. It's a very big region and it's very expensive to, oh, you're from Fiji, sorry, yes, you're right. I know Maureen is in the Cook Islands. Yeah, all right, okay, I didn't want to start an argument. But it's a very big region, it's very expensive to participate, even if you come from a prosperous place like New Zealand. And prosperous places tend to think that they are so good that perhaps they don't need to attend, you know. I'm not here representing the ISOC in New Zealand, actually. I'm representing an NGO and my funding comes from Europe to attend. It doesn't come from New Zealand. If there was any chance of attendance from New Zealand, it would have to be a big question in New Zealand to pay for an air ticket to Bangkok, and that's not so easy. So I entirely take the point that the other gentleman over there raised about funding. Funding is an issue that you need to maybe have a workforce, a task force to address. Okay, another question. To try and bring in more countries to participate, perhaps you need to write specifically to all the national ISOCs to specifically bring the program of events next year to their attention. I don't know whether you have a sort of communications task force or a person at the head office, the secretariat charged with communication, but somebody, I suggest, could write to all the ISOCs in the region, the national ones, and say, hey, look, next year is in Vanuatu, we noticed you didn't come this year, perhaps you could come next year, perhaps you could circulate information about this within your country, arouse interest among young people, circulate to them the information about fellowships, try and get some fellows, more fellows from, say, New Zealand to go to Vanuatu, which is not that far, it's not so far as Bangkok. Just do a bit of consciousness raising, you might say. Because I did speak to my national ISOC before I came here and said, look, I'm a member of your organisation, I'm going there but not representing you. Is there anybody officially who is going, who's representing you? And they said no. So it seems to me there's a big gap. Okay, I did have another point but I've forgotten it. That's enough.
Do we have a Zoom in? And go
It's the hot weather.
Yeah, Izumi.
Thank you. Izumi is the coordinator of Japan IGF. And thank you for this update on what's happening in the global IGF. I think it's really important to have much better collaboration between national and global IGF. So we really strongly support the initiative which started from last year and continuing, and that we are having the opportunity to provide feedback to the global IGF from the national level. So on the Connecting the Next Billion Phase 3, I'm not sure whether all the three, well, like earlier ones, all the ones listed is relevant to Japan, but I'll try to coordinate and provide feedback. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, even if you're not like officially registered in the UN, these are the things you can go back to your communities and try to encourage input from your national perspective. So that's one thing. And then regarding the earlier suggestion about better information exchanges among the national IGFs, I strongly support that as well. So this is more like a kind of session on better collaboration with the global IGF, and what we do is APrIGF. I think this is useful to keep it as it is. And we can also like have more informal informational exchanges session where both the existing national IGFs and potential national IGF people can join, and we can share what are the current issues, how we operate, and things like that. So that's, maybe I'll stop here, and then I would like to introduce what's happening in the Japan IGF, but maybe I will save it for maybe another chance with the microphone and let others speak first.
I just like to introduce what is the Taiwan IGF is happening. Although we have a difficulty to participate really IGF in the Geneva this year, but this year in the June, we have the first Taiwan IGF meeting in Taipei, and this is purely by citizen. We don't want the government funding to do anything. So even the government want to give us money, we don't want it. We want to really the bottom up, okay? And although this is the first time, we have around 300 people registered, but actually it's around 200 participants. And we actually have 7 sessions in our meeting. And maybe you have a more detail, but let's forget. And we also create a page on the Facebook, and more than around 1,300 people participate in our webpage and to discuss about the issue they are concerned and they are interested in. And because I was in hand of this Facebook, I know there's almost about 20 articles was being published every day. So I think this is very exciting for us. And because we have Taiwan IGF on June, so it's really surprised me. More than 15 people from Taiwan is coming to APrIGF in Thailand. So
Fantastic. Ko-Wei, can I just ask, do you think that this is, so the APrIGF from last year facilitated this?
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing
Yeah.
Yeah,
you are right, because APrIGF we happened in Taiwan last year. So the Internet Governance Forum is being well known by the people in Taiwan. Yes.
Great. Yeah, because that's the same thing as Kun Wanawit is saying. It's sort of like stimulating national IGF. We have Wakas, and then Maureen, you can go ahead, and then Wakas can go.
Thank you. I just have been asked by Anju to present just a brief report on the Pacific IGF. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend, and I think Anju didn't attend either, but we were sent a report, so we should actually present it here. Just very briefly, I think I mentioned at the MSG meeting that when we had the fellows, we actually sort of like did an overview of some of the important issues that we felt came from our regions, and I sort of like note that in the report that was written after our IGF, the issues were affordability, accessibility, social development, economic development, and Pacific youth. And I think that those were some of the issues that came up as important across the region. So that was particularly significant. But I think what I can raise is some of the recommendations that have come out of the Pacific IGF for general consideration. And one of the things, I think within our region, of course, but one of the things is the establishment of a Pacific MSG. And I think in relation to the Pacific IGF is, for the Pacific anyway, was that it had been a long time since we'd actually had what we used to have annually, a PACI net. And so this initiative of establishing an IGF within the Pacific was seen to be timely. And so that what they're going to do, the PACI net was sort of like a sharing of initiatives that were within the region, and I think that we can probably incorporate the IGF PACI net sort of like initiative in some way. So they're actually sort of like looking at establishing a Pacific MSG, which should to help to coordinate that. and looking at engaging key partners within the region to roll out some capacity building programs on internet governance, because that's sort of seen to be an issue, and I think that in light of the SIGs that are actually sort of like being established within the region, this is probably also significant. And then continuing some coordination by PICISOC, which is of course a major organisation within the Pacific, which actually coordinates quite a lot of the IG and IT sort of like activities within the region. They want to encourage greater engagement with the young people, which is really great, and also raising the profile of the Pacific IGF within the global agenda, and I think that's probably what everyone's trying to do anyway. Thank you.
Hi, this is Waqas from Pakistan. I'd like to update the audience about the national IGF that is happening in Pakistan this year. Pakistan had PK-SIG for last 2 years in 2015 and 2016, and we're also having a PK-SIG this year as well. So basically that built the momentum to bring all of the stakeholders together and have a national IGF. I think one of the probably the unique feature of this IGF would be that the government, the ministry and the regulator are also one of the partners who are organizing this IGF. So I believe this is going to be a true multi-stakeholder platform where all of the people converge together and talk about the internet governance issues in the country. One of the reasons that we are also trying to partner with the civil society on this is that when the government invites the other government departments, they usually respond well, rather than when one of the non-government actors involve them into a non-government forum. So we're trying to work this way, and we hope that it comes off well. Well, I had a question about about how is there any platform where the other IGFs happening in the region collaborate, but I think Maureen has already touched upon it. So if I'd like to have, if there is any update from the MAG. And before I finish, I'd just like to mention that, well, I asked for the slot because Moshir was not there, but now he's here and he's one of the main people from the civil society. He's also from the ISOC Islamabad chapter, who is also one of the partners. So I'd also like to say a few words, please.
Hello everyone. Sorry, I was stuck in a meeting, got late. Mubashir Sagana here. I'm managing the Secretariat of Pakistan School-Oriented Governance, and also I'm a coordinator for National IGF. So, I would like to say thanks to all of you guys, for having this session, a pretty good session. We had two, as Waqas mentioned, we had 2 editions of Pakistan School on Internet Governance, and now we are going for our national IGF. What actually our focus was, we not only on our local capacity building and awareness, we were also working on cross-border, in the neighboring countries, like we had participants, 5 participants from Afghanistan, and this year also we are having 5 to 10 participants from Afghanistan in our PK-SIG. So endorsing the question raised by Waqas, I would also like to know that a forum for the coordination purpose only that can actually help us facilitate in this regard. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And there was someone else behind you also. But go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Here. This one first. Because she raised her hand earlier. No? Oh, I see. I'm so sorry. That's okay. I'll call her next.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the coordinator of IGF China. And we are now the first year to join the NRI's community. And also we want to devote our energy from China community. As you know that China has a very big population to connect to the internet. We are around several hundred million people are online. And this is a huge community and a huge market. So we want to also devote our energy and into a community, even we are the latecomer to the NRI. So what we want to do is in next year we will have our first IGF China
and we will start our proposal process very soon. So you are all welcome to propose, and we will have our IGF China in next year. And also for the initiatives of enabling the next billing, I think currently we are in China. We are also have the initiative of One Belt and a Road initiative, and this is I think it's quite a match of this enabling next billing, because we are not just connect the infrastructure part, but also we want to enabling the connecting people around this area. And also, I don't know what's the output of this project, but from our aspect or from my personal aspect, I think we also could have something that just not to report or just the outputs of those kind of very formal, this kind of format, but also we can do something that to collaborate, to do something like to enabling people to do the access from facilities to from our technologies. So I also think that the IGF is not just the governance, not just the mechanism. Yes, it's very, very important, but also from my own background and from the tech background or blockchain, which we will see to the next generation of the internet. So I think the technology is also quite important. We want to also bring in this aspect to collaborate with the international community to devote really something we can do together to improve the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, first and then one more after you.
Hello, my name is Diana and I'm from IGF Indonesia. Just to adding Ibu Sita before about updating, and I think is connected to this project policy option for connecting and to the goal number 4, ensuring inclusive and quality education for all and promote lifelong learning. We going to socialize to the university largest in Jakarta about IGF itself, because I think same as China, we have a lot of people using internet, and we're also going to what did you call? We produce the book about children online protection, and yeah, I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, last comment for this round. This round, we will have, and I would like to ask, like maybe the panel to also respond to some of the questions, issues that have come up. Yeah.
My Pakistan is really small for me. I think Mr. Chengatai would never struggle as tall people. Anyway, I'm really truly honored to be here. I would like to thank the APrIGF Secretariat to be really cooperating with me. I mean, since I've applied, they've done a tremendous job, like in responding to emails, invitations, like. So my name is Seb Qazizada. I'm from Afghanistan. I'm based in Malaysia doing my PhD. Actually, I like the question that was raised by a dear sir there. I mean, like he said about the representation. I think when we look at the representation, we needed to have more people from the least developed countries, because these are the countries that are really suffering. Digital literacy is really low. People have access to internet, but the digital literacy is disastrous. So it would have been great if we had like greater representation from these countries. It would have been more fair. Because what I've learned as a learner, I would go back and contribute to my country. I mean, and my goal is to go back to Afghanistan. My brothers all studied overseas, and now they are working for the nation building. I mean, so it would have been far more greater if we had a better representation of least developed countries, because in one of the sessions I mentioned the needs when we talk about capacity building, the needs of least developed countries, developing countries, and developed countries are different. And like if you talk about New Zealand, their needs are different from a country like Afghanistan. So somehow it would have been greater if we would have categorized, because I think the needs are far more different from each other, and we wouldn't mix up, and then you put extra emphasis on capacity building for the least developed countries. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. So I'll ask everyone to respond, but just to note some of the issues that have come up. Like one is around language, second is around funding, and I think this relates to also the representation, how we prioritize. Capacity building was also raised as a challenge and something we need to pay attention to support the NRIs. There was also platform. How do we have a platform for sharing among the national IGFs, lessons, etc.? Maybe not only through this forum, but more outside of this. And then the number of countries we have. I think Jenny has a response to this.
Hi, this is Jennifer Chung from the APrIGF Secretariat. To the question that Winston asked, and also our fellow asked again about the representation here, I'm really happy to note that we actually have representation from 46 economies in the region. So if you think about it, UN has, for the Asia-Pacific group, 53 member states. For APNIC, they cover a region that comprises 56 economies. So 45 out of these, it's a pretty fair representation. There are a few participants that do come from economies that are outside the AP region. I do note that there's a really great map that maybe you have seen when you're going into social, where it asks you where you come from, and there's little pins, and there was a few pins coming from maybe the LAC region and also US. But the main part of it, I'm really happy to note that we do have 46 economies represented. Thanks.
Anyone else?
So just on this thing about representation, so as those of you who've either heard of been to previous regional IGFs, it moves around the region. And wherever we have such an event, there's always certain, I don't want to use the word complications, but that's what comes to mind right now. I mean, and the topmost, of course, is the visa. Then, of course, there's the cost to get there. Let's not forget that this region is half the world. The Pacific Ocean itself covers 30% of the Earth. So it's big. And time, distance, money, it costs. So I think every year you'll see the Secretariat and members of the MSG try and ensure that there's greater participation. I think this year in particular it's been great. Of course, Bangkok has a very fairly simple visa regime compared to some other countries in the region. It's also sort of a hub in this part of Asia, so it's easier to get to. For example, you see there's a large South Asian population at this meeting. And there's a reason for that, because the visa process was easier, it's closer by. When we move to Vanuatu next year, obviously we hope that our Pacific colleagues will find it easier to go to Vanuatu. So we may not see the same mix there. I also don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because it's a big region. Yes, sometimes we miss certain contexts in the discussions. I absolutely agree with that. And that's where I think the local or national IGFs can play a great role. And as long as we have that platform that someone mentioned, that we can bring it back into the regional IGF and to the global IGF, I think we're starting to win the game in that manner. There was a mention, I think Winston talked about ISOC in the various countries. So whichever ISOCs are connected to us, we do ensure that the information goes out. But ultimately it goes down money, time, and can they afford to come to an event like this? Also realize that a lot of the people in this room, people who attend these events, this is not their day job. They have to take time off work, or as I know some of my colleagues from South Asia, they've taken leave, come at their own expense. So I think we need to take all that into account as well. But what I can say for sure is that having been involved in this space for perhaps too long now, that every year I see greater progress, greater interest, greater interaction. And I just hope we can keep on encouraging that as people on this panel, but as well all of you.
I would like to comment on the platform that Izumi was mentioning. So at the Global IGF, we have Anya, who is coordinating all the national and regional IGF and build the NRI toolkit, which is very useful because we translate that in Bahasa Indonesia and we are using that. as well during our development. I was thinking at this point in the Asia Pacific, there are 7 national IGF listed in APrIGF. I was thinking if we can also build that platform for us only. I don't know who coordinate that. I don't want to put that in Jennifer's shoulders, but that could be something that we can think about to build another platform for collaborations or coordination. Because what I think also necessary is the sustainability. We all know the national IGF is very voluntary basis. It also deals with commitment, which is not easy to maintain in a country of, in a different set of countries. I know Asia Pacific is very diverse one. There is a very rich and developed and also underdeveloped country, but that's also an issue that we have to discuss openly about the sustainability. So we're not only get trapped into the good things about national IGF, but also the potential of backlash or backfire of the national IGF. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just answer the questions randomly as I've just written them down. There was a question about meeting spaces. For the global IGF, if anybody or any group of people want to meet, they can just contact us, send an email to Eleonora, and then we can give them a room to meet. This year, we're at the Palais, and we have the whole building, so we have about 28 rooms. So yes, if you need a place to meet and discuss, issues, it doesn't have to be public meeting, but to discuss issues amongst yourselves, we can give you that room if you can make it to the IGF. On funding, yes, funding is a perennial problem. We try and get as much funding as we want, also to encourage participation from emerging economies and also from developing countries. I mean, that is what our priority is. There are people like the IGF Support Association as well, which gives small grants. But of course, this is not enough, and we are trying to contact companies, governments as well, to give us funding for this. As far as representation is concerned, yes, it is very difficult, especially very expensive, which is connected to the funding for people to fly to places to meet. We at the IGF Secretariat are trying to get innovative ways to use remote participation. We have a remote participation working group as well, and we are trying all sorts of methods to make it very easy for people to log on and to participate in meetings. We also, if anybody here, if the national and regional IGF wants to use our remote participation platform, the WebEx platform, yes, just contact Anya and then she can arrange it. She can either give you a virtual room or set it up for you. This is in our effort to encourage people to communicate. Sharing of best practices as well and good practices. Anya is also working on some place on our website where we can have all the best practices for the national and regional initiatives. Of course, one size doesn't fit all, but experiences, people who are starting national and regional initiatives can come there and slightly modify what they find there to suit their situation. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there other comments? We only have 5 minutes. 5 minutes. But yes, go ahead.
Sorry, one more. For capacity building, we're also trying to encourage for the European region and for the Latin American and Caribbean region, they have the summer schools, and also for the Africa region, they have the summer schools. I haven't, maybe I'm mistaken, but you have them here as well. I mean, you had one the day zero, but we want to encourage more, and also since Asia is such a big region, it doesn't have to be one, it can be multiple summer schools. And at the Secretariat, we'll also help if you want to encourage some people to come from, from around the world. It doesn't have to be only from this region, but we can get experts to come and do some training or do some capacity building at these summer schools, and also, encourage people to give small grants to support these summer schools.
We do have an Asia Pacific School of Internet Governance, which is about 5 days. This has happened before this as well, so that happens. So there any Izumi wants to say, and then we have like three more, maybe the last comments then, and then we close.
Yes,
Make it short,
yeah,
please.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I want to touch on the suggestion by Sheeta. It seems that she was like reading my mind or something. I really wanted to make a specific suggestion to create a mailing list among the national regional IGF in our region. And then we can start from there. We don't necessarily have to have like regular calls, and this information exchanges on email basis may be really helpful enough, especially in preparation for this year. I tried to coordinate with other NRIs on organizing a joint NRI session. So I think we can exchange each other on ideas and how we prepare and providing input, in addition to exchanging ideas about the regular operational things. I want to also briefly mention about Japan IGF, that we've set up a new revised website. And so I'll share that to the MSG link. And I think there are other, like myself, and there are others from Japan IGF. Can you raise your hands here? So we'll be here until the end of the meeting. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us, and I'm happy to share information.
Hi, this is Jesuke, originally from South Korea. So I also want to add on to the previous discussions about making a venue for the coordination and the collaboration among the NRIs. So what about making some kind of NRI wiki, so that participants or some kind of the hosts of all the NRIs can actually contribute to the wiki pages, so that they can actually notify what's going on among those specific regions about internet governance. So that's my suggestion here. And so so we are also holding CARE IGF this year as well, and we are also thinking of invite some professionals who are working in their NRIs, so that they can contribute, or so that they can just share what's going on inside their NRIs for the Korean internet governance. But the thing is that what I also found out that CARE IGF website is not actually listed in the official IGF websites, although it has been run since 2012. So yeah, that's what I
Mine will be very short. Chengetai, can you tell us why is choosing the schedule on the December? They're so close to Christmas, and the people know the Geneva. December, first of all, is very cold. Second of all, when you want to get out, it's very difficult too. Yeah, and also it's very expensive. Usually you go to the Geneva, the hotel is about 200, but when the meeting happens, it's jump to the $500. Can you explain how that happened?
What's more important, the discussion or actually the place? No, I understand. The thing is, those were the dates we could get for the Palais. As you know, the Palais runs a lot of conferences, so those were the dates that we get for the Palais. And then when you're finding accommodation, don't focus on Geneva. Remember, the transport situation in Switzerland is very, very good. So even if you get a hotel in France, in Ferney or someplace like that, it will still take you 20 minutes to get into Geneva. So don't focus on Geneva. You can go, to the surrounding towns as well. And then for winter, I do realize winter may be problematic for some people, but we do travel around the world, and in some places we go to places where it can hit 40 degrees. So it's a balance.
Thank you, Chengetai. Okay, so we really have run out of time. Just quick response from Jennifer, and then.
Hi, this is Jennifer again from the Secretariat. So thank you so much for all the really great input from everyone. we're going to take the mailing list idea and the wiki idea and see if we can set this up for the AP region so we can have greater coordination, greater communication, and collaboration. That's really great because the time is really running short, so I'll pass it back to our moderators.
So just two things. One is that APC is collaborating with the IGF Secretariat in a publication, 2 publications in fact, on NRIs this year. That's our Global Information Society Watch. So if you want to write something about your process, please, if you're interested, come to me and let me know, and we can, that could be in the publication. That will be launched in December. Secondly, I have a tip for you for cheap accommodations in Geneva, 35 euros a night, believe me. And it is, no, it is true. It's like the commune of Geneva has a service to people attending UN conferences. You have to apply a month before. But if you're interested, again, come to me. We've used it, and it works. They give you a hotel accommodation for 35 euros a night, depending on where you're from, okay, depending on the country. So that's a really good tip for you to be able to afford the accommodation. And lastly, there's anything from?
Okay, so we have 0 minutes, so therefore I will cut it to 0 comments if I can. Thank you very much for attending. It's been great to share your experiences. Thanks to all the panelists. Please stay engaged. I think there's a bit of work to do. We have a few follow-up items from the MSG perspective. And see you next year in Vanuatu, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to go to the census document town hall session. That's in 212. And also, if you have any questions about the NRI initiatives, please do send emails to the NRI focal point, who was really, really, really kind to join online. Anya Gango, I'm sure everybody knows. You can email her at agngo@unog.ch. So she has been in contact with all of us. She's really happy to answer any questions, and we cannot thank her enough. Thank you so much, everyone.